I am very, very excited to kick us off with Lexington School District 5. This is where Tyler and I, all of our K-12 schooling was here. And I'm going to introduce Susan Applin. She's the client success coach for most of South Carolina, but in this case for School District 5. And she was actually a teacher at Dutch Fork while we were there and came from Lexington 5 and is now part of our team. And so, Susan, we're super excited to have you and super excited to have Lex 5 be the very first showcase that we have today because we owe a lot of our very foundational knowledge of what it means to be instructional leaders, to give good feedback, like all of those things we were taught literally and learned with our partnership with Lex 5. So I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Ben. I'm super excited to be here, and I am excited, as Ben said, to have three educators from the district that I came from. And it's where I consider myself to have learned how to be a teacher, how to be an instructional leader. I learned from the best. And I retired there after almost 29 years and got to come and be a part of this wonderful organization. So I'm going to introduce our three speakers from Lexington Richland 5. Tina McCaskill. She is currently the Chief Academic Officer in the Lexington Richland 5 School District. She's completing her 35th year in education. So congratulations. In addition to her current role, she's been a teacher, a curriculum coordinator, an assistant principal, a principal, an elementary director, and my former boss. Jaime Powell currently serves as the assistant principal for instruction at Spring Hill High School. Drawing on 25 years of experience spread over middle and high school, Ms. Powell works daily to impact student achievement through instructional leadership, and her approach includes intentional proximity to teaching and learning in classrooms, targeted data collection, and purposeful coaching around student learning to support teachers as they perfect their craft. And we also have joining us Courtney Sims, who is a veteran educator herself, entering her 20th year. She currently proudly serves as the elementary school principal at Leapart Elementary's STEAM Magnet. And prior to being an administrator, she taught elementary and middle school. So we are so thrilled to have the three of you here with us today to kick off our showcase. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning, Susan. Good morning, everyone. It's very exciting to be here today and to just share with you the journey that we've had with Classroom Mosaic. First of all, I have to tell on Ben and Tyler just a little bit that they started in Lexrich 5. So that's the roots that they had as students and started the whole app creation here in the district. So we're very excited about that and excited to see where they've come in their journey and have really helped us go on our journey. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. But Ben and I started talking about the use of Classroom Mosaic probably almost 10 years ago now, whenever I was director of elementary education and just brainstorming what could it be. We were already using Classroom Mosaic at the time, but really trying to figure out how could it be a tool to dig into the data to really drive what we did with professional development. As well as at the school level, as well as at the district level, how could we utilize that data? We had many meetings where we would just brainstorm, and the beauty of it was that Ben would then take it and create what it was that my brain was saying. And so I don't know how he could do that for me, but he did a really nice job of it. So I appreciated that, and that's continued throughout the years. And we had to really realize what was the best way to get the data. We went from one template to another template to when the 4.0 came out, we wanted this big template that included everything with 4.0, which then we learned was just too large of a template to even give us the data that we needed because it was too much. And so the more we really started digging in with intentionality to decide what is it that we really want to know when we walk in. And this is a walkthrough observation. It's not really intended to be an hour and a half observation. It's supposed to be a walkthrough observation. What is it that we want to collect? And so that's when we came to really developing a tool that we feel is giving us the information that we need. And then we had to talk a lot about, Susan, if you want to go to the next slide. to be able to really talk about what we would get with that data and how that data could be consistent among our observers. So part of creating the template was part of also developing the support for the consistency. And so we started looking at linking various resources, and you'll see on the slide here where we've linked with the strategy. So we have done a lot of research and a lot of professional development around John Hattie's effective strategies. And so we chose some of the highest used or highest encouraged strategies that we have, things that we've done a lot of professional development around, and we put those on our classroom mosaic for ease of our principals and our coordinators to be able to just click when they see those strategies being used. And in order to support our new administrators as well as those who've been in the field for a while, there's a document that's linked there that actually gives them the definition of those strategies, so that if they ever question, maybe I'm seeing this, maybe I'm not seeing this, they can click that to help them and give some clarity. It's also a great way to help with feedback, because as you're giving direct feedback, you can use the language of exactly what that strategy is. So there's various purposes behind that as well. Also, the reflective questions that I just referenced, we actually have a link to some great reflective questions that could be used. So if administrators or coordinators or anyone doing an observation is struggling with how they might word a question, they can use that link to give them some support as well. So just trying to create that consistency. We also do side-by-side observations. And so our coordinators go out, our content coordinators go out to schools and do side-by-sides with different administrators. Administrative teams do side-by-sides with each other, because what Courtney might be thinking about in her school as principal that she wants in her observation, does her AP and her AAP, do they have the same things that they're looking for, and are they looking and giving the same types of feedback, that they're not contradicting themselves? Or if Jamie at the high school is doing the same thing with other APs and with her principal, so that we can all be on the same page with that language. I don't particularly do classroom mosaics myself, but I also want the feedback and the conversations that I'm having with principals to be the same conversations that they're having within their schools. I don't want to be talking with a teacher at any point and be saying something that's not the same language. And so just that consistency is so important for us that we have. And part of that, talking about teachers, is that we have developed the instructional expectations document. This is just one picture. That book is full of lots of things and great resources for teachers to be able to look at. And Classroom Mosaic is a tab. You probably can't see it on your slide necessarily, but Classroom Mosaic is a tab because it's not a secret tool. So the key is that it's not just that Classroom Mosaic is a tool that we hide and people aren't aware of what it is that they're being observed with. They know what that tool is. And so every year at the beginning of school, we all have a presentation that's the same for elementary, it's the same for middle, it's the same for high school, that talks about what does Classroom Mosaic look for. And it's broken into pieces, and we take snapshots and put it into the presentation so that teachers know what it is that their administrators are looking for. So it's, again, it's not a secret. This is what we're going to be looking for. This is what we're going to be giving feedback on, but just making sure that our expectations align with what we are inspecting. So I've always said, inspect what you expect and be transparent about that. And so that's our way of doing it. So we dig into district trends. So from a district level, we try to look at district trends to help us identify areas that might need support. Where do we need to develop professional development? And then we encourage our schools to do the same thing. And so what you're seeing here is a snippet of teacher clarity. Teacher clarity has been a big piece of observation, professional development, things that we have done as a district. really wanting to make sure that not only our teachers know the expectations, but our students know the expectations, and our students can articulate what it is that they need to learn and why they need to learn it. And so you'll see there how we have been collecting that data. You'll also see on there at the bottom where it says that there were, what, 300 and something no responses on there or something. And that's something that just recently that we've discussed as an admin group, talking about if this is an expectation, we really should not be going into classrooms and not giving feedback on this particular area. There were places that I know our administrators had the best reasons for what they were doing. They were looking for something specific that maybe was not teacher clarity at the time. Maybe at the beginning of the school year, they were really looking at the environment in the classroom. And so they didn't necessarily give feedback on the teacher clarity. But that's an area that as a district, we've said, there's never going to be a time that we walk in classrooms any longer that we're not giving feedback on teacher clarity. Because we want to make sure that teachers are clear with what they're saying and what they're doing, that students are clear on what they're learning and why they're learning it, and that they can articulate what their next steps are. And then that allows us to give targeted PD. If we see that teachers aren't able to articulate that, or maybe our students aren't articulating that, that's where we can provide PD. And we have, certain times that we do that PD. And then we go into our progress monitoring, because like I said, we have to inspect what we expect. And so from a district lens, we will go into schools and we'll talk with our schools about progress monitoring. We have tried to make this as authentic as possible. We really want to just join the teams when they're doing their progress monitoring meetings already, so that it can be a natural conversation. I never want something that's created just for Tina to walk in the building. That's not going to help anybody. That's actually going to take their time away from what they need to do. So really want to make sure that we're listening and we're helping to support. Our directors do that 3 times a year. I go in my middle of the year PDEP with principals is one of those team meetings, so that it's not just the principal in their PDEP, but it's their entire team talking about what they're doing and how they're doing and what it looks like. And then, of course, the beginning and end of the year PDEPs also talk about classroom mosaic. And really the key here, what we found is, yes, we all know that the number of observations that you have is important. We all know that. But really the quality of those observations are what's most important. And so from that, that's where we've had to develop some PD, because for a long time, what we found in our district was there was this number battle. Like, am I getting enough classroom mosaics? Is this enough? And it's like, what do you mean, is it enough? Like, enough is that you know everything that's happening in your class, in your building. You can identify the strengths and weaknesses of your teachers. It's the same conversation that you want your teachers to have, right? If your teachers are teaching 25 elementary students, or if they're teaching 125 high school students, you still want them to know their students. So we want our administrators to know their teachers. And so the only way you do that is you do that through assessment, and assessment is through observation, right? And so we've tried to help our administrators to really understand how to do that. And so this is an example of a PD that we did this summer with our elementary principals. We've done it with assistant principals. Secondary is in the process of developing some of the same types of PD. But being able to identify which teachers we need to focus the most on. And it was very enlightening when they went through and they looked at their last year's data and decided which teachers were showing the greatest conditional growth, because we use MAP in our schools. So which teachers were showing the greatest conditional growth, which were showing the weakest conditional growth, and how many observations did those teachers receive during the school year, and what types of feedback did those teachers get. So as a reflective practice, looking to see, were we providing the support that was needed, and how did we identify that support? And so you can go to the next slide. These are just some examples of the way that we went through that PD to identify and that data review and what that looked like. That's one example. And then the next is just an example of how we pulled some very specific feedback. And so we pulled this directly from, and you'll see the black line is a redaction. So we didn't let anyone know where it came from, but we used this as an example. So many strategies in place, crystal clear expectations, high engagement, well done. And we asked the administrators, was this a good example of reinforcement or refinement, or was there some place for improvement there? And we asked them to talk about that in their groups, talk about what they saw, how might they improve it, or is it okay like it is? And that was a great discussion that we had. And then the next slide, we gave an example of what was some examples of reinforcement. And again, the groups talked about, were these good examples? Could they have been improved? What did they look like? And I know they're really tiny on your screen, but I think you'll be able to get the slides later. Is that correct, Susan? You're muted. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was trying to make sure I didn't speak at once. We can get those slides for people who request them. Yes.
Great. And so again, you'll see some more examples here of refinement. And we just really talked about, why was this a good example? Why was this an example that maybe the teacher didn't get quite the feedback that they needed? So that's just a way that we did that. So that is how, as a district, we have used this information. And then, like I said, what really is beautiful for us is to walk into schools and see them authentically using it in their buildings. And so we have two great administrators to share with you. So I'm happy to turn it over to Courtney, who is our proud principal at Lee Park Steam Magnet School.
Courtney, do you just want to double check next to that mute, unmute, the little caret to make sure that it's tied to the speaker that you're using, your microphone? We cannot hear you at the moment. There we go.
Did that do it?
Yes.
All right. Well, can you see me?
I can see you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. McCaskill, for that awesome overview. And thank you for continuing to have Classroom Mosaic for us as a tool. As Ms. McCaskill said, I am very much the proud principal here at Lee Park Elementary School STEAM Magnet. And as a principal, not just of an elementary school, but also a Title I school, of a magnet program, and a former CSI principal, Classroom Mosaic has really been instrumental in the story of our growth. I'm grateful that I can look back into a platform and genuinely see the story of instruction. I can see the progress that we've made in each and every one of the classrooms in our building. And so, again, at wearing those hats, I write a lot of reports. And Classroom Mosaic, there's not a goal that I have set that doesn't somehow impact or isn't able to be measured through Classroom Mosaic. So one unique piece that I appreciate that has given us some true customized data. There's a section of Classroom Mosaic that when we were going through our magnet grant, we implemented Kagan cooperative learning. And while that is unique to Lee Park and a few other schools in the district, we were able to have that section of the template for our school to utilize. And over the past 5 to 6 years, we've been able to track and measure the true impact of that instructional strategy here at our school, as well as the implementation of UDL and other strategies that we have been utilizing here. Also, as part of our Title I plan, I appreciate the section in Classroom Mosaic that allows us to talk about the instructional tools, whether it's Nearpod or iReady, some of those things that we purchased using our Title I funds. I'm able to utilize the Classroom Mosaic data to demonstrate the fidelity of implementation, as well as the impact on teaching and learning here in our building. So definitely appreciate having the ability to have that customized data. Secondly, the balanced walkthroughs have been so beneficial for our entire administrative team. One of our weekly routines is on Monday mornings when we sit down on our, as an admin team, we have a calendar for the year that kind of tells us what grade level we're spending our time. But because our Classroom Mosaic template has so many different options, we can determine where our focus should be. Maybe we need to spend some time that week looking at our readers workshop, or maybe we want to get a pulse on the learning environment. So I appreciate that the template allows us to spend time in the areas that we want to get some data. And then, for example, the reason I checked this snapshot is while we plan ahead, we know sometimes those weeks get away from us, and we could have the best intentions to spend our time in a reading classroom. But if I'm looking back, I can see, is our time, how are we balancing our time in classroom to make sure that we're getting the best picture of instruction school-wide? And so at a glance, I can tell that we've got to spend a little bit more time getting a pulse on writing and even on our word study. The last piece that I really appreciate, again, is just that calibration of feedback. The professional development that Ms. McCaskill mentioned is very valuable. I love that I can see the feedback that all members of our administrative team have provided. And oftentimes, before I go in to visit, let's say, said second grade teacher, I can pull up that teacher's name, and I can see all of the feedback given previously so that I can continue to build and layer that feedback. The last thing I want to do is to offer a nugget that is in direct conflict or takes them in a completely different direction than what a coach may be working with them on, or another member of our administrative team has advised on. And so once a month, as an instructional leadership team, we do review this data with each of our instructional coaches so that they can see the broad overview or picture of instruction. They can give us some information about their coaching cycles and whatever instructional strategies they're working to embed. And then we can compare notes. It's also helpful for us to see the connections between PLCs and our professional development. So that's just a little bit about Mosaic at Leapart. Thank you for having a few minutes to share.
Thank you, Courtney. And we are excited because we have a jam-packed schedule today. So, Jaime, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes if you'd like to tell your story at Spring Hill.
Can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So, yes, I know I'm rounding everything off for our group today. And so I'm just going to kind of hit a couple of things at a high level. So I think all of us know that instructional leadership is kind of twofold. We are responsible for the big picture data. We look at that all the time. We look at student achievement data. We sit around tables. We make decisions off of that. But we also know that good instructional leaders have intentional professional learning opportunities and intentional coaching. And those things don't happen if you're not proximate to teaching and learning. We do, number one, we do the big picture data regularly. Classroom Mosaic is something that empowers you to do that intentional coaching and professional learning at a really high level because it puts you proximate to teaching and learning. And it gives you something that takes the guesswork out of deciding what works in your school. So if you look at student achievement and you look at big picture data, and then you are regularly proximate to teaching and learning with Classroom Mosaic, it's going to spit out evidence of what's working in those really high functioning, high achieving areas. What I know about intentional coaching and professional learning is that it doesn't usually go well if it's just my opinion. If I'm looking at big picture data and I'm saying, hey, like, it's my opinion that these strategies work. Classroom Mosaic empowers me at Spring Hill High School to go into my classrooms and say, this is what the teachers are doing. Like, it's kind of like a reading rainbow moment. You don't have to take my word for it. Here, let me lift up some really high achieving teachers who have some high effect size, high impact strategies that I have evidence through Classroom Mosaic, through walkthroughs, through intentional proximity to teaching and learning. It works. And then I can lift those people up because it's actual evidence of those powerful instructional strategies. And so it allows me to say, yeah, here's my big picture data. Here's maybe an area of growth within my student achievement data. Here's some areas that were strong, but again, it breaks it down and takes the guesswork out of what actual instructional strategies are working. It also allows me to be able to say, again, it's not my opinion we need professional learning in this area. It actually lets us name our areas. And so we're able to give that targeted work. So if you don't mind, just go back one slide. I'm so sorry. I'll wrap it up right here. I just wanted to give you an example. So for us, you'll see like modeling is at 18%. So it's in 18% of our observations. But if you dig into that Classroom Mosaic data, you'll see that the modeling is actually in our classrooms that have super high student achievement data. So what we can see is the correlation to high student achievement data, but we see that it's low across our school. So now we can put that data and that solid evidence in front of teachers, and then they recognize that this is simply professional learning that empowers them in their craft, as opposed to someone above them saying, oh, well, this is what I think we need to work on. So again, Classroom Mosaic is just a great tool for us to name the things we know are working and to have evidence, and then just forces us to be proximate to teaching and learning. And then that just fuels us as we refine our craft at Spring Hill.
Thank you so much, Jaime and Tina and Courtney, for sharing your story with us today.